Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In this video, we are going to understand a behavioral design pattern called the state design pattern. So without further delay, let's get started. Sometimes you'll have an object that needs to behave differently depending on its internal state. The state pattern allows the object to alter its behavior when its state changes. Imagine a play or pause button on a media player. If someone clicks the play button, what happens will depend on the state of the media player. For example, it could already be playing or paused or rewinding and so on. So if you write a media player in Java, you might end up with lots of if statements about the state of the player. For example, you check if it was playing and then have the code to handle that scenario. And then you check if it was paused and then have some code to handle that scenario and so on. This can get quite lengthy and complex. You would also need these long if statement at every method you created. So in the pause method and the stop method and so on, as well as in the play method. The state pattern provides a better solution to this problem. The state is separated out as a separate object from the client. Usually there is an interface for the state and then concrete implementation for each different state. So for example, in the media player example, the media player itself could be the client and then there would be a concrete implementations of the states for playing, stopped, pause and so on. Any of the operations performed by the client that depend on the state are handled by these concrete implementation of the state interface. So the state pattern is a way of avoiding huge if-else block or switch statement, and in this way it can help simplify the code. The state pattern allows an object to change its runtime behavior when its internal state changes. So let's see this state pattern in action. So let's see a state pattern in action. So here I'm having a code for media player where I'm creating an object for the player and I am playing the player, media player, and since it is already playing, then I have started again playing it, then I'm stopping it, then again I'm stopping it, and again I am playing it. So if I run this, you will see that it is printing that player has started playing since we have played the player. So now since it is already playing and we are playing it again, so it is saying player is already playing, right? So now if we stop it, it said player stopped playing. Now we again stopped the player, so it is saying player is already stopped, and when we started playing, then it is saying player started playing. Okay, so let's see its code. So if you see the player, so we are having a boolean is playing and a constructor which is initializing the is playing to false. And in the play method, if you see, we have if statement that if it is already playing or not. If it is already playing, then we have written some statement and then we are changing its state and then we are printing out that it has already playing. Same for the stop. So I think since is playing is a boolean, so we cannot have more than two states, whether it is true or false. So now let's consider instead of is playing and stopping, we need another state called pause. So we cannot have this boolean for that purpose. So we cannot this boolean cannot satisfy that particular functionality. So this is a good candidate for a state pattern. So the first thing what we will do, we'll create a state called player state and it will be an interface. Okay, and it will have three methods. Okay, public void play, and it will take the player object as an input. So we'll create three methods: pause and stop. Okay, so now we're going to create our first state called play state. Okay, and it is going to implement our player state. Okay, now we'll implement these methods. Okay, since it's a play state, so currently the player will already be playing. So what we need to do, we need to add that player is already playing. Okay, now for the pause, we need to add the state. So what we are going to do, we are going to add, we are going to set the state to new pause state, and we are going to print out that player is paused. Similarly, for the stopped, since the player in the play state, so we need to set the state for player to the stopped state, and we need to print out that player is stopped. So you can see that there is a compilation error because I have not yet created the set state and the pause state. So let's create it. So now we are going to create the pause state, and we are going to implement player state. Now we are going to implement the same 3 methods, and since it's a pause state, so we can play from the pause, right? So we need to assign the state. Okay, so player dot set state to new play state, right? And we are going to print out pause is playing, or the paused player is playing. Okay, now for the pause, and you're already in the pause state, so we can write player is already paused. Okay, and for the stopped, we need to set the player with the stopped state and print out player is stopped. We can just write from paused. Okay, now we need to create our last state, that is the stop state, and we are going to implement player state, and we override these 3 methods. So currently we are at the stop state, so obviously we can stop from we can play from the stop state. So we need to set the player, set the state of the player for new play state. Okay, and we can print out player is playing now from stopped state. Okay, now for the pause, we need to set the state with new pause state, and we need to print out player is now paused from the stop state. And since we are already in the stop state, so we cannot stop it, so we can simply write player is already in stop state. Okay, now we need to create this set state method, so we are going to go to the player. Now this boolean is no more satisfy our use case, so we are going to change this to player state, and we are going to name it as state. Okay, and in the player we are going to initialize with the stop state. Okay, now in the play method, so we are going to remove all this if else block. We can just simply use state dot play, state dot pause, and we are going to pass the player instance, and we are going to create, sorry, here it should be stop, and we are going to create another method for pause, and we are going to set the state as pause. Now for setting the state, I am going to create a setter for set state, and this will set my method. Okay, now if we go to media player and we have play stop, let's run this and let's see what is the output we are getting first. So it is saying Player is now played from the stop state. Since we have initialized our state as a stop. Now we are again playing. So it is saying that player is already playing. Now we have stopped it, so it is stopped. And now we try to stop the same player which is already in stop state. So it said player is already in stop state. And now when we start playing, it is saying that player is playing now from the stop state. Okay, now if I add my pause, and if I again try to pause, let's rerun it. So it will say from play to pause, we can already pause, and since player is already paused, it cannot pause once again, right? So if you see, we have reduced a lot of if else block. The code is much cleaner. If you see the and you can know what is the responsibility of the each state. That's how it reduces the code and help us to change the runtime behavior on the basis of the state. See you in the next. Thank you.